Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Coach Chris Knighton recording another episode of the Knighton Runs Podcast. And it's Saturday morning, but I wanted to get this out because it's been a couple of weeks since I recorded one, and consistency is important. So here I am. It's been a busy week. I've actually had a ton of athletes reach out to me this week about potentially getting started training with me and the Knighton Lions for the over the course of the winter and towards spring marathons. So it's been kind of a busy week, and we got a whole bunch of races coming up. I'm going to talk a little bit about during the podcast today. But if you've been following along with the show and what I'm doing, I do have a few more spots I'm looking to fill for one-on-one coaching for the upcoming season. So if you're interested in that, please reach out or check out my website at knightonruns.com. I also have training plans available too if you'd like to do something a little bit more self-led, but would like some guidance from me in more of a group setting, as well as getting support from my community. And you can check that out at my website as well. If you haven't already, be sure to download a free copy of my book, Run Faster Marathons, The Proven Path to PR. You can go to my website, knightonruns.com, and click the link that says free book download and get a free ebook copy of the book. I've been really excited to see, actually, we've gotten such good reviews for the book, better than I could have ever imagined, to be honest. And this past month was actually the month with the most sales of the paperback and Kindle version since I released it earlier this year. It's also out on Amazon if you'd like to have a hard copy of it. So Run Faster Marathons, get the free version or check it out on Amazon. But enough of that promotion. Let's get into the content for the week. So as I'm recording this, it's about a week after Thanksgiving, and I ran my first ever turkey trot and was joined by 13 of the Knighton Lions doing turkey trots all around the country. It was pretty cool. We had folks in New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Iowa, New Hampshire, Colorado, all do turkey trots, and a whole bunch of personal bests and high-ranking performances as well. Asha, I want to call her out in New York, set a new PR. Kaylee set a new PR in Iowa. Mike and Doug both set personal bests in Massachusetts and Rhode Island in their turkey trot. And then we had some really great finishes as well. Helen was third in her age group in Rhode Island. Sam got second overall in his turkey trot in Dover. And in the race that I did, I ran for third place overall in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I think this is the first time that I've ever done a turkey trot. They're super fun. I'd love to do more of these in Thanksgivings going forward. It's such a nice way to start the day. Get a good run in, whether you race it or just run for fun. And then you can enjoy the rest of the day just relaxing with family and friends. If you ran a turkey trot last week, I'd love to hear how it went. And if you set a personal best in your 5K, or I know some are 4 milers, 5 milers, let me know. This upcoming week, we're actually doing another team event for the Knighton Lions, and it's going to be in Boston, Mass. It's the Martin Richard 8K. This is actually the second time that we've participated to support this event. I'm doing it in partnership with one of the athletes I coach, Knighton Lion Mike Preston, who is the owner of Century 21 Revolution Realty, which is his realty company based in the Boston, Massachusetts area. In partnership with him, we're sponsoring a team to run at the event, the Martin Richard 8K road race, and we're bringing about 20 athletes who are going to get together and compete. And we've raised over $1,000 for the organization, the Martin Richard Foundation, which is really exciting. That's going to be tomorrow morning, and it'll be really fun to meet up with so many of the Knighton Lions and supporters and friends in person, race alongside them, and we're going to have a little after party afterwards at the nearby Notch Brewery. So I can't wait for that. I love these shorter races. They're super fun, and they're a great way in the winter when you're not focused necessarily on marathon training to work on your speed and work on just how well you perform in a race environment and actually implement some of the racing tactics that play into how well you race that you don't necessarily get to do as much of in some of these longer races like the half and the marathon, where you're really just kind of focusing on pacing yourself because the endurance component of it is so large. For the topic I wanted to touch on today, I actually have two things. And I know we're in a bit of a transitional time of the year right now. Though most of us have finished up our goal marathons for the year, some of us are still training and working towards big fall races or early winter races. And I actually got some great questions this week from one of my athletes, Sarah, who's a member of the Knighton Runs training group, about how to taper for her marathon. She said, "Hey, Coach Chris, I'm 12 days out from my marathon, and I just finished my last tempo workout. I listened to your podcast on the marathon taper, but I have a couple of questions going on for you." So if you haven't listened already, I do have another podcast episode all about understanding the marathon taper, but here are a few questions that will go even deeper on that. So here's what she asked. First question: do you recommend still doing strides with all of your easy runs as you normally do during the taper? And if so, how fast? Here's my answer. During the taper, you pretty much want to cut all of your volume in half, but you want to keep the intensity the same. So Sarah said that she typically does 6 30-second strides at 1 mile to 5K pace at the end of all of her easy runs. During the taper, cut that in half. So go from 6 to 3. If you normally did 4, go from 4 to 2. If you normally did 8, go from 8 to 4. Keep the speed and the time of each stride the same. During the taper, you're basically cutting all of your mileage and all the frequency of your reps in half. You're basically cutting the volume of everything you're doing in half, but keep the intensity and the speed the same. This is going to be how you rest your legs, but maintain that sense of freshness during the 10-day taper. Sarah's second question: Coach Chris, you plan a 10-day taper that decreases mileage by about 50%. Why do you plan this instead of a 3-week taper that's structured with a decrease of, let's say, 90% one week, 75% the next week, 40 to 50% the third week? That's a really good question. It's important to understand why your taper is structured the way that it is. And you'll see on different training plans, different approaches to this. So Sarah brings up a more lengthy more of a tapered approach, a 3-week gradual decrease in mileage. But most of my plans and the way that I coach most of my athletes, it's almost more like falling off a cliff after that 10-day point. I don't typically gradually drop people's mileage. We generally peak with mileage about 3 weeks out. And then in the 2-week out point, you'll go halfway through the week. And then with about 10 days to go, I just cut your mileage in half. 10-mile runs become 5-mile runs, 6-mile runs becomes 3-mile runs. Why do I do that, and why do I do it that way? Well, it's because a rule of thumb, our bodies are going to take about 10 days to internalize the benefit of any workout we do. Anything you do, a workout, a run, within 10 days of a goal race, your body's not necessarily going to have time to internalize that workout, physically grow stronger from it, and get any fitness gains. So, this is kind of a rule of thumb, but about 10 days before your marathon, you do your last workout. And that's the last workout that's going to matter for your fitness. Now, when you decrease your mileage, you're going to do two things. You're going to freshen up your legs, which is going to allow you to run faster. You're going to be rested. This is how you're going to overcome the cumulative fatigue that you've built up all throughout marathon training. And it's going to be what lets you finally run 26 miles at your goal marathon pace. However, you can't drop your mileage for too long. Otherwise, you're going to lose fitness. So when you take a 3-week taper, that's 3 weeks of decreased mileage. And some athletes are going to find that by tapering for 3 weeks, it's too long, and they're going to start to feel stale. They're going to feel like they're beginning to lose fitness. So with a 10-day taper, you don't need to worry about that, because 10 days is not enough time to lose any fitness when you're still doing 50% of your volume and you're doing it at the same intensity you were before. Now, for some athletes, I would recommend a 3-week taper. I think if you're running very high mileage, and when I say that, I would say maybe athletes running 80 miles per week or more, you might benefit from a 3-week taper. But if you're running, let's say, 60 miles per week or less, the amount of volume you're running is probably not fatiguing enough on your body that you would want to consider doing a 3-week taper. I think the longer taper makes sense when you're under so much cumulative fatigue that you really need to let that go before you can run your goal race. And if you think about it, someone who's running, you often see this with professionals. If you're running 100 miles a week, if you taper down to 90%, that's 90. If you taper down to 75% the following week, that's 75. Then the final week is 50. During that phase, you're still running a lot. But if you try to do a 3-week taper off of, let's say, 50 miles a week peak, then you have 3 weeks where, you're running a lot less than 50 miles. I think there's a lot of opportunity to lose fitness there. Now, there's also some athletes who really don't like tapering at all. And I think that if you're the type of person who's not under a lot of cumulative fatigue, maybe you're undertrained a little bit or running less mileage than you could have, you might benefit from just a half-week taper. Do kind of your normal mileage the week before. I would suggest probably getting rid of any workouts of significance in the final 10 days. But, say you're only doing like 30 or 40 miles a week for a marathon and you're not that tired off of that, you just do your normal mileage up until 5 days before your race. And then in the final 5 days, maybe after, let's say, Tuesday, kind of start to rest a little bit, do a little bit less, maybe about 50% distance on your runs after Tuesday going into the weekend, and you're going to be fine. Some people just, when they cut their mileage, they don't feel good anymore. So this is a personal thing, but I like to start with 10 days as a starting point. And that's typically what I recommend for most athletes. Sarah's third question about the marathon taper was, should you still do the strength training circuits that I prescribe during the taper? So Sarah said she typically does them on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the week. And should she stop strength training altogether until the marathon during the taper? If you'd like to get a copy of my strength training recommendations, they're actually all within my book, Run Faster Marathons, The Proven Path to PR. So just go to my website, click the button for free book download up top, and you can download an ebook copy of my book, and you can get all my strength training recommendations and the actual routines in there. And if you implement these 2 or 3 times per week, like Sarah is, you're going to see a lot of improvement in your not just your running, but it's going to help keep you resilient to injuries and let you run more and stronger at the end of your races. So it's great that Sarah's been maintaining her strength twice per week throughout training. And in the taper, you do want to continue it. I typically, though, will recommend skip the last session. So if your taper begins the Tuesday in the week before your marathon, you'd want to continue doing your strength training through that Tuesday, through that Thursday. And then as you come into marathon week, you want to do your strength training routine on the Tuesday, but then skip it on Thursday. Really, those final few days before your marathon should be super easy. The least you can do, the better. I often give kind of the last baby workout to all my runners on the Tuesday before their marathon. Do a little bit of strength that day, but then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if it's a Sunday race, make those days super, super easy. Consider taking a rest day or two in there. Don't do anything unnecessary. Just stay off your feet and focus on rest, hydration, eating well, and getting mentally prepared for your race. So skip that last strength session. All right. Thank you, Sarah, for those questions, and good luck at your upcoming marathon. I'm super excited for you and really happy that the training plans you've been following that I wrote for you have been working. Now, I want to transition into the next topic, which I think will be relevant for anyone who's done now with their goal fall race, which is me, most of my athletes, and probably you too, unless you're doing the December or January marathon. And it's the concept of base training and how this prepares us for a great spring ahead. Now, myself and most of the Lions now, pretty much everyone, we're all in what I call base training. And this is not a concept unique to me. It's well understood throughout the running world, coaching world. My wife actually puts together these really cool infographics that she shares on our Instagram, at Knighton Runs. We try to post one about every week. And she put together a really nice one which shows a pyramid this week. And she called it, "What is base training?" And if you look at this, there's a visual of a pyramid where the bottom is this huge wide base. And the next level up is a slightly smaller segment, right, as the pyramid goes up, which she's called strength. And as we go up higher, there's a slightly smaller section, which she calls speed. And as we go up to the top, there's a little gold triangle at the top that says peak. And your peak is what you get to during the taper phase that I was just talking about before. When you rest for those final 10 days, you let go of the fatigue you've built up all throughout base phase, strength phase, and speed phase, and you're finally able to reach that peak. But what I want to get to now is the bigger your base is, the wider it is, the more of a strength phase you can support, the more of a speed phase you can support, and ultimately the bigger of a peak you can support. So it's really important that you structure your training throughout the year with this phase-based approach in mind. And this is actually one of the biggest things I do with my athletes that they're not doing before I start working with them. The bigger a base you can build, the higher your peak will ultimately be. It's important to recognize that if you're a serious athlete and you actually train like one, you're not going to be in peak fitness. You can't physically be in peak fitness more than a few weeks out of the year. No professional runner maintains peak fitness for very long. By definition, you can't get to your best peak fitness if it's something that you're trying to spread over months and months. So right now, we're all in our base phase of training, and it's important to be patient right now. We're running mileage. We're doing some baby workouts, perhaps. But everything we're doing right now is in preparation for the more challenging stuff we're going to do in the future. So as I record this, it's December. No one needs to be in the best shape of their year in December unless you got a goal race right around the corner. But most of us don't. Most of us have that in April, maybe in March, maybe in May. We're laying the base for a strong, tall peak to come 3, 4, or 5 months from now. So the message I want to convey is it's important to be patient now. You need to leave room to grow in your training right now so that in the months of January, you can do a little bit more. February, do a little bit more than that. March, April, May, do the most, and then taper and reach your peak. You want to be laying the base now with preparation and the direction of where that's going. One of my athletes this week said, I just didn't feel like going to the track and banging out 6x800. That was the workout I gave for him. I didn't tell him to go to the track, though. He could do it wherever he wanted, but he told me, hey, my mind said I can't go to the track right now. And I replied, you know what? It's fine. I'm happy you did this workout on the road because it's December and we don't need to be banging out hard track workouts this time of year. Save that for March when you're a month away from your goal race and you have the mental energy to go do that hard work on the track. To be a successful runner and a successful marathoner, you need to mentally adopt this phase-based approach, and you need to physically write it into your training schedule in a way that makes sense. So as we build this base now, make sure it's in preparation for what's to come. Make sure you have room to grow, and make sure you're not so gung-ho now in December that you're going to lose that steam way before your goal race is here. All right, guys and girls, that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like the Knighton Runs podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you would leave a review on your podcast listening platform. Getting reviews on things like Apple Podcasts or Spotify are really one of the few things that I can do to help spread the reach of this podcast. And it really, really means a lot from you as a listener to leave that for me. I appreciate it a ton. It helps me get feedback to improve this show, and it helps share it with others. And it's been kind of cool. Some folks have been reaching out to me recently and have told me that they found me through this podcast. So if you find this show at all helpful, please leave a quick review in your podcast listening platform. It would really mean the world to me. And if you have any questions that you'd like answered on this show, check out the Knighton Runs training group. It's patreon.com/KnightonRuns. You can sign up as a supporter of the show or become a member of the training group and get great training plans that you can follow. And once you join our community, get your questions answered in the community by me and our other great runners. And ask your questions like Sarah did for the show. I'd be happy to answer them more in depth here. All right, everyone. Take care. Get your Christmas tree up. if you do Christmas. All right, we got to do that later today. See ya. Bye.